I did that job. The Lord had me in position there to live it and be here to say, I believe the homeschool movement was founded by the John Birch Society and the CIA because they were going to need people that would be brainwashed into accepting that the United States was still a light on a hill, even though it broke 506 treaties and violently took over the world. They needed homeschooling because they were the only ones that were going to know phonics, how to do advanced math, diagram a sentence. They needed them to be the pages and the legal work. But they also wanted to ensure a die-hard, almost pathological love for the United States, that my country, right or wrong. So, while they were doing that, so while I was working here, there coaching, I raised these children in this. I stayed in my starter house, paid off a 30-year mortgage in 17 years. I'm telling you these things, and if you do that Federal Freedom of Information Act, you'll find out. If I'm lying, I'm dying. Never passed up a chance to, and to take my young wife up to visit Canada. This is, I'm the tall one that would be on your right as you look at the screen. I was there in the Army. I was a surveyor. I understood trigonometry. I guess I'm not a big dummy that believes in flat earth. And I got assigned to the two platoons that helped with something called the parallel azimuth direction system. Well, that parallel azimuth later turned into GPS, global positioning system. But I was on the two platoons that tested it and know that it was started as parallel azimuth direction system. So the Lord is using me, and I don't doubt that. Want to fly down to St. Louis and see a baseball game with your son? That's what you do when you're working with the Christian homeschool. Your kids get rained on while you're at Dollywood. Have a little fun with them. We were the Chargers, and we were proud, and we had sports banquets and things like that. I had little babies doing this, and now we got pandemics. Am I a real person? Did I really do all this? Did I leave everything, sell everything because I believe this? Yes. This is real. Were these girls, did they raise $3,000 to fight abortion that day at a Hike for Life when we took our junior varsity team down there? Yeah, because that was my goal then. We have the time, we have the effort, we have the inclination. Let's do something good. I don't know if it was $3,000. I know it was a surprise to everybody. It was like, oh my goodness, that's what we do. Hey, you're now a spy in the Air Force. Congratulations. Did I love Dollywood? Man, I went there 6 different times. I loved it. That was our life. Did my wife and I, did we have a lot of kids? Did we want to be just like mom and dad and raise our babies as young, good Christians? You better believe we did. I don't know what you were doing, but I know what I was doing. I was playing softball. This was, if you can read that, it says harvest, because they needed a ringer when James McDonald was starting the High Harvest Bible chapels. Remember the guy that just got fired for gambling a couple of years ago and never paying off his thing? He replaced me as the 8th grade girls basketball coach when I got promoted. The Arlington racetrack, could go right in. This is me out west at the, I think they call it Boulder City because it used to be Boulder Dam. That's me leaning there on your right with my grandfather. Sports banquet times and things like that. And a picture of me and my 3 sisters from 68. And this was taken about 6 miles from where I'm staying with Touchdown Tommy right now. And this is where I got baptized, in Bridge City, Texas. Mom was too busy to go to parent night that night. She got kind of busy at the end. For farmers, as a young man trying to impress people with, look at me, I know how to cook. I got to where I could rock 2 Webers and boil a turkey at the same time. Unpublished picture of Johnny Cash. I think it's pretty cool. But anyway, I'm not faking. This is my life. You know, I want to be an overseer, a bishop. I want to be a pastor first, a deacon first. I want people to go, I've been watching that guy. I've been checking him out. I can't find anything wrong. Keep looking, keep watching. There's too many Rabbi Zachariases in this world, you know, doing everything in front of the people, but behind the scenes, what's going on? You know, when people realize, oh, I could embarrass the Lord, maybe they'll be better. But let's get into that brainwashing, because none of us remember being taught the globe. None of us remember being taught about NASA and everything. It was always just, you know, that wow, of course it's true. And now we're having veils lifted. We've got to lift them up, get rid of them. You know, let's see. So the brainwashing also ties into the Manchurian Candidate, in that I teach that the Nazis were studying it. We've proved in the United States that MK Ultra, we were studying it. We know the ways to brainwash, and they all could read the open papers of Pavlov's dog, and Calhoun studying the rats. And that was the secret of NIM, about the rat studies. National Institute of Mental Health, anybody? NIM? They had to change the name, you know, because they made that one too obvious. So here's what they got to say about mind-controlled, menticide, coercive persuasion, thought control, thought reform, and re-education. Brainwashing is the concept that the human mind can be altered and controlled by certain psychological techniques. Brainwashing is said to reduce its subject's ability to think critically or independently, to allow the introduction of new, unwanted thoughts and ideas into their minds, as well as to change their attitudes, values, and beliefs. The term brainwashing was first used in English by Edward Hunter in 1950. Everything's so new, to describe how the Chinese government appeared to make people cooperate with them. Research into the concept also looked at Nazi Germany, at some criminal cases in the United States, and at the actions of human traffickers. Wow, we're getting that a lot. In the 1970s, there was considerable scientific and legal debate, as well as media attention, about the possibility of brainwashing being a factor in the conversion of young people to some new religious movements. To young people to some new religious movements. The 1970s, there was what they call scientific and legal debate, as well as media attention about the possibility of brainwashing being a factor in the conversion of young people to some new religion, which were often referred to as cults at the time. The concept of brainwashing is sometimes involved in lawsuits, especially regarding child custody. It can also be a theme in science fiction and in political and corporate culture, but is not generally accepted as a scientific term. Now, the reason in the 70s that the young people, was legally and scientifically, are they involved in a cult, was possibly because they needed Charles Manson to be convicted of murder, although he wasn't at the crime scene. Because that case impacted so much in the United States and is so underplayed that despite its shocking thing, the shocking things is what happened afterwards. And the simple fact that for the first time in our history, they tried a man for murder who wasn't there, who didn't do it. But they found him guilty because he had manipulated their mind. But we're supposed to believe that only people like Charlie Manson, David Koresh, some other cult leaders, they're the only ones that do it. No. I think that the United States and the other governments do it too, but now it's legal. And now it's legal, people that could say the term for brainwashing was originally used to describe the coercive persuasion used under Chairman Mao's government in China, which aimed to transform reactionary people into right-thinking members. Here we have the U.S. military and government laid charges of brainwashing in an effort to undermine the confessions of American POWs to war crimes. They had gone over there, they got them brainwashed, broke them, they started telling the truth, and the United States going, they're brainwashed into believing that they did those biological crimes. After Chinese radio broadcast claimed to quote Frank Schwabel, Chief of Staff of the 1st Marine Air Wing, admitting to participating in germ warfare. Oh no, that's just a lie. The United Nations commander asserted whether these statements ever passed the lips of these unfortunate men is doubtful. If they did, however, too familiar are the mind-annihilating methods of these communists in extorting whatever words they want. The men themselves are not to blame, and they have my deepest sympathy for having been used in this abominable way. So here's from the movie, Lawrence Harvey and Frank Sinatra in The Manchurian Candidate. Now, Patty Hearst, the heiress to the Hearst newspaper fortune, was kidnapped by someone called the Symbionese Liberation Army back in the day, and she helped participate in bank robberies, and they claimed it was Stockholm Syndrome. She'd been brainwashed. Rich people don't go to jail. He's an expert in brainwashing, I guess. So is he. The legal concept, the concept of brainwashing has been raised in the defense of criminal charges. It has also been raised in child custody cases. The 1969 to 1971 case of Charles Manson, who was said to have brainwashed his followers to commit murder and other crimes, brought the issue to renewed public attention. 1974, right on the hills, the Hearst family experienced it when Patty Hearst was kidnapped by the Symbionese Liberation Army, a left-wing militant organization. After several weeks of captivity, she agreed to join the group and took part in their activities. The next year, she was arrested and charged with bank robbery. But the famous attorney F. Lee Bailey argued that she should not be held responsible for her actions, since her treatment by her captors was the equivalent of the alleged brainwashing of Korean War POWs. See also diminished responsibility. So we had that. What's this category all about? Oh, so these are different under the category of mind control. There's hypnosis, lobotomy. That's a pretty desperate form. Brainwashing, 2 + 2 + 5. That comes from the book 1984. Covert hypnosis, brain implants, electronic harassment. Anybody? Gaslighting. Candy Jones. Well, she's an American model who must have been brainwashed. LSD. That'll brainwash you. A lot of experimenting without permission. No privacy in your medical history for the United States government. Not going to happen. Mind games. Project MK Often. MK Naomi. MK Ultra, Miko versus Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity, Psychic Drive, Stockholm Syndrome, the re-education in Romanian communist Romania. I had some volleyball players that were witnessed the killing of Ceausescu from Romania. That was in the 80s. In March 1949, the OS was constituted, this being the first designation of prison security on the initiative of Georgia Pintele, head of the Security. Its first commander was Yusuf Nims. The operational service was subordinate to the Security. Well, what did they do? After the installment of the communist regime, the prison system went through a transition period up to 1947. The detention regime was rather light, as the political prisoners were entitled to receive home packages, books, were granted access to discuss with family, and even organized cultural events. Gradually, the Security harshened the conditions as the entire mechanism grew more solid. The old guards were replaced with new ones, adapted to the new society. The detention regime got rougher. Beatings and torture during inquiry became common practice, together with mock trials and mock assassinations. Re-education centers. Beatings were Operation Midnight Climax, carried out by the CIA, just another sub-project of Project MK Ultra, the mind control research program that began in the 1950s. Yes, I'm saying reset early, reset often. Originally established in 1954 by the CIA's version of Himmler, or who was the mad doctor? He's escaping my name right now. But he's been Mengele. He's our version of Mengele. as it's, the second paragraph starts after it names a bunch of illegal things. Every one of these acts was blatantly illegal, and several significant operational techniques were developed in this theater, including extensive research into sexual blackmail, surveillance technology, and the possible use of mind-altering drug in field operations. Now, how can, they want to use sex as a weapon, and so they get everybody hypersexualized. They get them drunk. They take them on those Rhodes Scholar tours, follow them around with a camera like they did Bill and Hillary Clinton when they just got their Rhodes Scholar, and then they take the pictures and they own them for life. And they become willing participants. I don't know if Bill and Hillary had been Stockholm Syndrome, but something happened to them. Same thing with Barack Obama. If you think that Barack Obama pulled himself up by his bootstraps and decided, I'm done smoking weed, I'm going to be the president of the United States, when he was gone from community organizer to president of the United States in less than 8 years. No, he's a setup. He's one of them. That's the way it goes. And you better get on board, because that's where my studies are going. That's where your studies should be going. So the last tab I have before we might have to go freestyling on the tabs is the Opus Dei. You probably saw the movie about it, where they had the one guy who played priest, and he was in the movies with Tom Hanks whipping himself. Oh, and like it's well, the Opus Dei wasn't even founded until 1928. These guys, this is all new. They've been groomed to do that. They're grooming you to do that. People in this world today are getting into the fetish thing where it's like, hey, go ahead, spank me. Spank me, I deserve it. I like it. It's, it says there's almost 100,000 members. They're all type of priests in it. They've got some work going on. Okay, let's go back up here. Usually in here you can probably say, well, where's the ones that talk about their, oh yeah, well, here it is, sexual abuses. It's just a matter of that's what's going to be there. The first publicly known one settled for $1 million, but there were others. The higher you go, the more they keep it quiet. That's just the way it is in life. So that's all of the tabs I had. And from the time the daily sacrifice is abolished and the abomination of desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. Blessed is he who waits and reaches the end of the 1,335 days. So that's another 45 years. But as for you, go on your way until the end. You will rest, you will sleep, and will arise to your inheritance at the end of days. So what I did was just say, well, let's just take the year 2001. And we don't have to subtract the 1,000 because we know that they added 1,000 years of history. So it'd just be added and take it away. And so in their history, if we subtracted 290 from the 1,290, that equals 1711. I think that's when Satan was loosed, 711. And they added, they're working our history around that. That would put that, 100 years would be the 1812 mysteries of what happened in Moscow, what happened in Washington, D.C., to where both cities were deserted, an army came in, burned them all down, and then left. And if, let's see, so you also, the extra 45 years, if you take 2001, because I'm saying that the day that starts the last 45 years after Satan is loosed was 9/11. That changed everything. So if you add 45 more years, this is when I think is the best guess, the most educated guess, as Spock would put it. My logical choice for my personal salvation is to say we have to have a date that is 45 more years. We have to have the date that, okay, Satan's been loose for that 290 years, and now everything's changed. And it's something that the world has to work on together, much like the, NASA, or accepting that there's atomic bombs and we're all afraid of it, and that the United States invented quantum physics and quantum math and then developed a bomb and saved the world. That's our choice. We believe that, or we believe Satan's been loosed and then something really happened big on 9/11, and it was the Patriot Act. Goodbye posse comitatus. Goodbye any legal rights for any individual. So there has to be a time. That's my time. If somebody else has got a better time and they can back it up and say, no, it wasn't 9/11, and if you add 45 years, it comes out to 2022. Okay, well, back it up 45 years from 2022 or 2021. And what happened that year that changed the world that was so big? I looked at 1970 when the United States admitted that it went off of fiat money, and the United States has no gold or silver to back their money, and it's just all fiat oil money. That is why there's no more electric and steam cars. But then that time's already gone. The 45 years are still here, and there's no Gog Magog. So maybe there's something coming in the future. Maybe it's 45 years from the pandemic. If somebody can make that argument that the pandemic is the one that changed the world, whereas I could tie it back into saying we wouldn't have been able to pull off this pandemic with the United Nations and everything else if, the United States hadn't have been in so much debt to China and realized, wow, we're broken. What's going on? And all of a sudden it's getting revealed. The United States is the only one drinking fluoride and eating GMOs because our government says, forget what the rest of the world says. They're healthy for you. Just like the way they approved aspartame and all of those other sugar sweeteners. The money was there to be made, so they made it. Your safety, your health was not a part of the plan, because I never used to believe this, but now I do believe that big pharma is in business to make money, and they'd rather have you sick. Get your checkups, get this other test. So we're doing anything like that. Hey, Scotty, I wonder if you want to come in and...
Hey, go! Yo, Jeffrey! Jones! What? This is James. Now, do me a favor. You just show me around, tell me TV rules, show me the games and stuff, okay?
How much you gonna pay me? How much? I'll be doing your job.
$5,000, my man. That enough? 5,000? I'll wire check your account as usual.
$5,000. $5,000.
$5,000?
I'll give him the deluxe middle
hospital. My man.
Get around, let you feel good. You're the prisoners. No, you're the guards.
Now you got it. Now you got it.
Right. Okay. It's all good. All good. Here's some games here. And there's Get out! Get out! He's in my chair. Games. Here's some games. Games you want to get out. See? More games. Games, they vegetarize. See? If you play the games, you're voluntarily taking a strength visit. I guess they give you some chemical strengths, huh? Drugs! What did they give you? Thorazine? Haldol? How much? Learn your drugs. Know your doses. It's elementary. You would make a telephone call. That's communication with the outside world. Doctor's discretion. Hey, all of these nuts could just make phone calls. They could spread insanity oozing through telephone cables, oozing to the ears of all these poor, sane people, infecting them. Wackos everywhere, plague and madness.
Come on, let's go.
In fact, very few of these are actually mentally ill. I'm not saying you're not mentally ill. For all I know, you're crazy as a loon. But that's not why you're here. That's not why you're here. That's not why you're here. You're here because of the system. There's the television. All right there. All right there. Look, listen, kneel, pray. Mercies. Productive anymore. At least to make things anymore. It's all automated. What are we for then? We're consumers. Okay. Buy a lot of stuff. You're a good citizen. But if you don't buy a lot of stuff, what are you then? I ask. What? Mentally ill. Back, Jim, back. If you don't buy things, toilet paper, new cars, computerized blenders, electrically operated sexual devices, stereo systems with brain-implanted headphones, screwdrivers, miniature built-in radar devices, voice-activated computers.
Take it easy, Jeffrey. Be calm.
Right? That's right. You're a very attractive woman. So if you want to watch a particular television program, so all my children know something, you go to the charge nurse, tell day, time, and show you want to see is on. But you have to tell them before the show is scheduled to be on. And there's this guy, and he's always requesting shows that are already played. Yes, no. You have to tell her before. He couldn't quite grasp the idea that the charge nurse couldn't make it be yesterday. He couldn't turn back time. Thank you, Einstein. Now he was nuts. He was a fruitcake.